Hey guys, stage 5, Tour de France. We're going to break it down, talk about what I saw in there, what was awesome, what we saw from the key riders, what we saw in the stage, and what we can expect from the evidence that we saw in time trial. So, first of all, Remco, awesome job, amazing time trial. And this was kind of like an on paper time trial result sheet, right? Like it was like coming into this time trial, if you were to just go off of results that we've seen in the past and said, okay, what do you predict based on this? Yeah, if you look at the last results from the favorites, from Remco, from Tadej, from Jonas, pretty much translated straight onto this. Normally Remco would win, normally Tadej would finish second, and normally Jonas would be close and in third place. So, or just behind. So results wise, nothing crazy here, but I think there were some deeper stories in those results that is crazy and that it is exciting to talk about. The first one is Remco dealt with the pressure. Now, there is a lot of pressure on Mr. Remco. Whether we like it or not, he is defending world champion. He is defending Olympic champion. And he won the last first time trial of the Tour de France, and he beat everybody last month in the Dauphiné. So he's got a lot of pressure on him to perform in the time trial. And because of that, going into a race like this, Tour de France, first week, it's hard to step up and perform. And you can kind of think about this in your own individual intervals that you get that super hard workout, numbers are up, intervals are some of the most challenging intervals that you've done. You can do them, but you kind of feel like everything has to be right to be able to nail that workout. And this is how it feels for Remco. He knows he can win this time trial. He knows the course is good for him. He knows he's in good shape, but he's afraid, like, hey, am I going to be able to hit my numbers? Am I going to be able to do this with this pressure? Am I going to be the best rider after this first week in the Tour de France? Probably suffered yesterday on the steep climb that Tadej attacked on. He probably suffered in the last part of that stage. He got dropped right at the finish. Little things like that can chink that confidence as well. So Remco is going into this race, and he knows he can win, but just like us, when we have those hard workouts, he's thinking, man, I don't know if I can get this done. I don't know if I can deliver. So he delivered. Also, you have that Tadej factor, and when you're racing against Tadej, you're going to get that like insane performance. And the Dauphiné, Tadej didn't have an insane performance. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But aside from that Tadej is going to come in and just drop a haymaker in every race that he does. So if you're Remco and you're like supposed to win this race, you're the world champion, you got the stripes on, you got the gold bike, Olympic champion, but you got this Tadej Pogačar that's just insane. And when this guy starts the race, that he is just going like a savage. And so think about that with Remco. He knows that Tadej is going to be going for the jugular with Jonas. He knows that he's going to be going for the stage win. It's a lot of pressure. He also knows Jonas is probably going to try to do a really good time trial like we saw 2 years ago in the Tour de France. And so he doesn't know, like, is Jonas going to do something like that? There's a lot of buzz around the Visma team, a lot of like, we know what we're doing. Like, look at us. We're super crazy fit this year. We're really aggressive the first part of the race. I think a lot of people are scratching their heads a little bit about how aggressive Visma and Jonas has been in this Tour de France, how good his time trial was in the Dauphiné. He won the Algarve time trial as well. So probably everybody's just thinking, like, is he going to drop another crazy Tour de France time trial like he did 2 years ago? So Remco also is kind of mentally dealing with that. But he delivered. And not only did he win the stage, but he won it in a really steady, well-calculated, well-executed effort. just true professional beauty. And so I love it. His position, obviously amazing. Cadence was awesome. He really used the road, moved all around to cut the shortest distance on the course, was very smooth, didn't take risks in the corners, but still really fast. Sprinted out of the turns, got up to speed each time. He just looked beautiful, like amazing. Like I wish I could time trial like that. He just looked fantastic. So, first story, we'll check that off the box on our podcast right now. Remco delivers under pressure, gets a stage win, puts himself back in GC. I believe he's in second GC. A little bit out of touch still, but puts himself in there. And you got to count this. He took time out of Pogačar. Now we know it's a time trial. We know it's his strength. We know Tadej's not as strong as this at the time trial, but it's been done. He took 16 seconds out of Tadej Pogačar. Like, tell me the last time someone's taken 16 seconds out of Tadej Pogačar. So that's momentum. That's real hard-earned momentum. We can't discount that. Now, could he get dropped? Is that going to happen? Probably in the mountains. So, and just as we talk about when was the last time someone took that time out of Tadej Pogačar, we go back and think about the Dauphine, right? Because Remco did smoke Tadej in the Dauphine time trial, and then Remco lost a lot of time in the mountains. But we're going to talk about that next, Tadej's Dauphine time trial. But we'll start that transition with the second key point of today's podcast, which is Tadej's performance in the time trial in the Tour de France was good. I wouldn't say it was phenomenal, but this is where I'm really loving racing right now, and I'm really loving this Tour de France so far, and a lot of things that have happened this year is the performances just really add up, and they either are like underperformances or they are performances that are in line with what that rider's been doing. And if you look at Tadej's time trial, you look at the performance, it was great. It was awesome. He took time on all the GC riders except for Remco. But it wasn't like this crazy, insane, won by a minute, hasn't done a good time trial in a long period of time or whatever. Like, it was in line with how he's been riding. And I would say it, in the overall scheme of Pogačar-ness, we'll just call it that, I'd say it's not Pogačar level climbing, explosive attacking, solo breakaway stuff. That area that he's untouchable in that area. But I think that's what makes this performance nice, is it shows that he doesn't work as much on his time trialing as those other areas. Probably a lot of that's due to just his passion, what he loves to do. But he's still good at it. He still does the work, but he's not exceptional. He's not the world's greatest ever in the time trial. And so I think that's cool, where his time trial matches that. And so when we see his climbing performances in the coming days, I think they're going to be exceptional. I think they're going to be phenomenal. But that's like where he's really owning his effort right now, and where the Pogačar-ness is taking over to another dimension. And so, yeah, the second place, 16 seconds down on Remco, put over a minute on Jonas in the process. I do believe that the majority of that time that he put on Jonas was more Jonas having a bad day. I think if Jonas had a normal day, he would have probably lost 30 seconds, 20 to 30 seconds to Pogačar. So to lose a minute, I think he was just on a not as strong day as he could have been and has he normally been. So Tadej's time trial, aside from just being a normal Tadej time trial, again, which I think is awesome, and I know there's a lot of Tadej like haters out there, and there's a lot of people that's like, this guy's just dominating, and screw this guy's ruining the sport of cycling, he's too good, blah blah blah. This kind of stuff just like, again, just goes to why we should love Tadej and why we should be fans of it, because yeah, it's not perfect. It's not everything is so much better than everyone else. It's in these key areas. and he continues to work on his strengths and his weaknesses, and he moves the notch, the level just better a little bit every year, just a little bit. And so his time trialing has been improving a little bit each year. I think that's cool, where it's just not out of the dark, out of the blue, whatever it is, just insane time trial for no reason at all. He's just been really solid, really good time trials, and just keeps improving. So, and you're probably wondering, okay, the Tour de France he won 2020, what was that? More that I think about it, yeah, it was the end of the race. He had really good legs. The majority of the time trial was uphill in the last part of it, and Roglic had a bad day. So I think that explains that performance there. And I think everything, in his progression has either been a step up from that and gotten better, or yeah, a really bad day like when he struggled in the Tour de France 2 years ago. So let's talk about it. What do we see out there? Well, first of all, we saw the same bike and the same position as Dauphine. So that pretty much, I think, validates the claim or the theory that I had that he did not go all in on the time trial in the Dauphine. And you're probably asking, or if you didn't hear me rant about this or talk about this before, why did he fake or hold back in the time trial in the Dauphine? I believe it had less to do with the overall scheme of time trialing and letting people know his time trialing ability. And I think it had more to know about not putting a performance marker on his level out early in the race for Visma and for Jonas to understand and have an idea of where his fitness and where his form is. And if you look at his performances in the Dauphiné, you had this confusing time trial followed by a stratospheric uphill, followed by a tiny little win the following day, then followed by the two finished together and Jonas sprinted and he didn't. And so you would have left the Dauphiné as Visma, knowing that Tadej was better than you, but not 100% sure, is he better in the time trial or is he not? And then on the mountain stages, did he have just a great day on that one day? And the other days he's not? They didn't have a true understanding of his performance. I think he's got a lot up his sleeves. We're going to see it coming up. I believe he's worked on his climbing tremendously. He looks super lean. He looks different on the bike. He's got this new, longer seated acceleration into a higher threshold that he can land on afterwards. I think he's got some new tricks. We're going to see, I think, some of these iconic climb records broken. I think that's what he's going after. I think he's going after big performances and iconic climb, conquering these climbs, right? Taking the big famous names that have the records on these climbs times down and putting his name on the top. I think that's the motivation, the incentive. I don't think he wanted to give much away from the Dauphiné going in, and giving that performance marker in the time trial really gives Visma and gives Jonas a clear understanding of his time trial ability and where his threshold is. And so I think he held back, and we see today he definitely held back. I thought he looked different on the bike today. So different, I questioned for a second that he maybe changed his bike position. But when I watched the video from the Dauphiné, I watched the video from the UAE Tour, and then I watched a video from the Tour de France today, bike position was the same, setup was the same, but the difference was he tried a lot harder, and you'll notice that he rounds his back more when he goes hard because he is moving forward on the seat to generate more power, more torque on the cranks. And when he is doing that, he also raises his head up. So in the Dauphiné, in the Dauphiné time trial and the UAE time trial, he raced, I think, a lower power, more controlled effort. And so he really worked on that position as well at that lower power because he could. And you see that his back is more flat, and you can see that his head is lower and closer to the handlebars. That's the new idea with the position changes I believe he's on a smaller bike, and yeah, they're trying to close the hole. So I think his arms are up and back, so he's able to bring his hands closer to his head with his new position. So obviously they've worked hard on it. It's got a lower CDA. It's got to, and yeah, I think in the Dauphiné there was a lot of speculation, and people were saying, well, he's not happy with his bike and he's not happy with his time trial position. I think he didn't go all in. If you watch the Tour de France, you can see he's going all in. If you watch the Dauphiné start and you watch the Tour de France start, you'll see in the Tour de France he stands, he sprints off the line, he goes right into his arrow tuck. He's ripping the corners. He's moving his body all around on the bike to generate power. If you go back to Dauphiné, the first part of the time trial, he's seated. He doesn't even really stand up and accelerate out off the line. You can just see he's just visibly riding easier and riding slower when you compare and contrast the two performances. I think facial expressions as well, you could see that he was intense. You could see that he was digging deep. And if you watch his finish line, the last bit into the finish, you'll notice that he is just leaving it all out there. He actually took time on Remco, about 4 seconds in the last part of the race. Most of that was due to him riding the corners more aggressively, but he still, I think, pushed a little harder, went a little deeper, did a little bit more performance there in the last part of the time trial. So I think that is also an indication that he is riding really well and feeling super strong. What does this mean in terms of his performance moving forward in the Tour de France? The big thing is yeah, he has the best, highest threshold power, sort of sustained threshold power, 30-minute effort, something like this, 40-minute effort, which is, guys, listen up, is basically the length of the big mountains coming up. So he's got it. It's higher than his rivals. Remco has a much less CDA, which is the drag. Jonas, much smaller CDA than Tadej. And if you look, he was almost the same speed as Remco. He was a lot faster than Jonas. And so you can conclude from that, without any smoke and mirrors, that Tadej has a much higher threshold power than his rivals. And I would expect he is going to do some extremely crazy stuff in these mountain stages. So we have that to look forward to watch and pick apart, analyze, enjoy the performances. And I think, guys, as fans, I challenge you to look at the Tour de France. I challenge you to look at the riders, and I will do my best with this podcast to really talk and break down their performances. I would love to share the human part of it, the professional part of it, the sportsman part of it, and really analyze what is happening, whether the same rider's winning or losing or whatever it is. If you really truly look and love the sport, you can enjoy the performances by how good they are. You don't need to be married to one particular rider, and if that one's doing well, you're happy, and if another one is doing well, we're upset. It's not like another sport where if someone is losing, it typically means that they're performing poorly, and if someone's winning, it typically means they're performing well. Most of these cyclists are performing well, just some are better than others, some do things better than others, and we can enjoy and really absorb all that's happening in Tour de France. So I challenge you, if Tadej's dominant or Jonas comes in or whatever happens next, to just try your best to enjoy the performances and not really get wrapped into this narrative that's going around, which is people are thinking, yeah, this guy that's dominant, that's so good, is ruining the sport. Because no, I mean, people want to see excellence. People want to see athletes perform at the highest level. And so I think it's a good thing when there's someone like Tadej that just gives an absolute masterclass in the sport. It's clear that it's a win. It's clear that it was better than all the other performances, and it's clear why. And I'm going to get in there and try to share as much as possible, but I think it's going to be a very awesome Tour de France in terms of from a performance perspective. I think records are going to be broken. I think that new ability markers and levels are going to be raised. I think it's going to, again, continue to change and evolve the sport for the future, which I think is awesome. All right, so let's dive into Jonas. What do we see? Well, I guess I said from the Tadej performance, I guess, to just finally tap into it, the final bit of it, like, amazing performance, shows that he's on a really good level, shows that he is going to be awesome on the long climbs, and in my opinion, shows that he's better than his rivals. So we got that. His teammates, most of them took it easy, except for Almeida. He did a good time trial to stay up there in GC. I believe that they're doing that not as a plan B, but to just have that option if they need to put him, Mark Jorgensen, or something like that. They can use him if things get out of control. He's still in GC, so he can also cover big moves if things go out of control in some of these crazy breakaway stages. Put him in the group, let him go up the road, and that can take pressure off the race if the team is under stress or under physical pressure in the moment. So that's what's happened there. We see the same thing with Visma. They really only had Jorgensen do a good time. Affini did a good time as well, and the purpose of that was to set a good pace. So Jonas had something to follow. I also heard that Jonas rode in the car behind Affini, so he was able to see what the course looks like at the winning speed. So that was a pretty smart move from that side of it. So on to Jonas's performance. What do we think about that? Well, I think it wasn't a very good one. Not because I don't like his performance, but I think that it was subpar for him, his ability, and for his fitness level. Now, you might ask, why is his performance lower? Well, I said this if you listened to my earlier podcast or you read my tweets on X, you would have seen that I was talking about how aggressive Jonas and his team has been in this first part of the tour, and in contrast, how relaxed and calm and almost reserved Tadej and UAE have been in this Tour de France. And I think that's big because every bit of energy you use counts in these flatter, higher power stages. Being aggressive, attacking off the front, always being in the front, attacking in the crosswind, doing a lot of work in the break in the crosswind to create separation, to snap the field across, like all of those things not only front loads your Grand Tour with extra fatigue, but it also, and this is super, super, super important to grasp, to understand. But Jonas and Tadej, they're smaller riders. And so they're putting these big efforts in areas where a smaller rider's big effort isn't really getting the same return on investment. And it is costing them more energy than it normally would because they're having to attack and they're having to position, they're having to be aggressive in an area where everyone, big riders, small riders, everyone can be in the game. The other part of that too is it's early in the race. So it is much harder to be at the front, to fight at the front, to pull at the front, to snap the peloton, to do things like this in the first part of the Tour de France than it is the last part of the Tour de France. The reason for this is because everybody's fresh. Everybody feels good. Everybody's mojo's high. Everybody thinks they have a chance. And so for him to be up there and actually be attacking like he was and pulling in the crosswind like he was, splitting the field like he was, doing all these things, that's energy used in a time where most of the riders have been conserving more energy than him. But one name in particular, Tadej Pogačar, has been conserving more energy than this. And here's the devil's advocate, or maybe not the devil's advocate, but another thing in defense of this is Tadej's aggressive and UAE's aggressive attack on the stage yesterday, stage 4. Maybe one of the reasons for him doing that was he saw and he knew that Jonas had been putting a lot of energy in those early stages. And he thought, you know what? I am going to put a barn burner effort in at the end of this. I am going to rip the legs off this guy. I'm going to make him go so hard that he either lets me go and I win and I take more time, or it puts his body completely under massive stress, and that just adds more overall fatigue, more overall energy lost, more muscular damage going into this time trial. And I think that this theory is accurate. I think this is what happened. And if you look at Jorgensen, who has also been aggressive and being a big part of the Visma tactics, he also underperformed in the time trial. So I think that this is most likely the reason why he had an off day in the time trial, that he was just simply more fatigued than Tadej. And if going into the Tour de France, if we know that Tadej, and this is something I'm going to talk about a little bit more in a minute, but going into the Tour de France, if we know Tadej is at a level above Jonas, and we can't argue that he's not. In fact, he's at a level above everybody in the race considerably. And so if you, Visma, and everybody else are trying to tear this guy down by tearing yourself apart and tearing the race apart, logically, it's actually going to cost you more than him. But if he is actually not participating in your burn down of the peloton, now he is even more at a higher level than he was going into Tour de France. So I think this is what we saw. I think it's pretty interesting to think about that. And I hope moving forward that Visma ends up changing their tactics. I said this in earlier podcasts and tweets that they've been doing this I call it scorch the earth strategy for pretty much every race that I've seen in the last year, maybe even more, ever since they pulled it off in the Tour de France. And I think it's probably time for a change, because it does not seem to me that Tadej is going to crack in the heat, and it doesn't seem that he's going to crack under pressure from super hard efforts, because his level is so high and he's worked on all of his weaknesses dramatically. So moving into the next part of the race, I hope that Visma takes a bit more calm and controlled approach, which is don't light the race up. Sit back a little bit more. Follow the moves. Try to not lose any more time to Tadej. We've got the Mer de Bretagne coming up. Like, don't attack. Don't be aggressive. Like, just follow and see if you can get to that finish line at the same time of him. In the Mer de Bretagne finish, it levels out at the top. So maybe he throws a big attack. You go with it. You don't take a pull. You don't counterattack. You just follow him all the way to the line, and then you try to jump him at the last part. Or maybe he attacks to the top of the steep part. It looks like he's faltering like he did the other day, and then you attack him. You counterattack him. So just got to look for opportunities like this. But I think they've got to pivot from the scorch the earth strategy and move into a more defensive strategy and simply try not to lose more time. And in terms of Remco, and he's up ahead of them on GC, but again, just sit back there, let UAE, let Tadej do his thing. If you can follow him, there's a good chance that Remco is going to be dropped, and that's going to take care of that, and you're not going to have to do anything. And then you can sit there and keep doing that until you sense some fatigue or some mistake from Tadej, and then you jump and you attack and you move forward. Now, is this time trial performance going to break Jonas? Is he going to lose his mojo? Is he going to feel bad about himself? Is he going to feel like a failure? No. The answer is no. First of all, the guy is tough as nails. He's not going to come apart. He's mentally so dialed. And quite honestly, if you're Jonas and you've been around and you've been doing these races, you know this guy's better than you. And if I'm over here on the couch and I see that he sagged the time trial or whatever he did, and I've seen how well he's been riding in all the races, and I know my power numbers and these things like that, like, he probably knows that this guy Tadej is on a completely another level, and if you didn't beat him, then that's not a big problem. And if you look at your time trial critically and you see your power numbers were not as good as they should have been, which is for sure what he sees today, then you must go back and say, what are the reasons for my power numbers to not be what I'm capable of? And if I'm a coach, which I am a coach, if you guys are a coach or whatever, you're analyzing your own training, what are the possibilities of why your power numbers could be less than they should have been? Well, nutrition. Maybe you didn't eat enough. And fatigue. That's it. Really, that's it. Like, that's it. Fatigue, nutrition. He didn't lose his fitness since yesterday. So what's the reason? Well, probably fatigue. Did he get sick? I don't think so. So there's literally no other reasons. Maybe he mentally came unglued, but that's not likely. So he's probably taking a critical look of that, and he probably looks and says, yeah, was a little too aggressive in the first part, and it looks like Tadej didn't break down as much as me, and now I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to change my tactics, and I'm going to apply something different. I hope this is what happens. Everybody writes to me, and they say, the tour's over, blah, blah, blah. Guys, the tour is so gnarly. It is so gnarly. Like, just to get through the tour, like, the tour is so gnarly. Like, just to get through the tour, you have to be able to jump through so many hoops, avoid so many crashes. Tadej is an amazing bike handler. He has an incredible team. He's incredible fitness. He can do it, but it's not going to be easy. And then he's got to make sure that he doesn't get sick, that he doesn't mentally fall apart. He doesn't have any personal problems. I mean, we all take this stuff for granted, but in our own lives, and again, think back to your own training. How many times have you had a training program that for the weekend you couldn't deliver on it? And so just like the time trial today, like you look back at your performances and you said, hey, look, like this is where I can improve. This is where I need to improve or whatever. Same for Jonas, Tadej, same thing. So moving forward, don't think the race is over. I think Jonas changing a strategy can help stay in the race, stay close, see what happens, move forward, right? And I hope they change their strategy. So that's it. That's what I got for you guys in the time trial. Pretty cool race. I really enjoyed watching it. I know time trials are not always the most exciting thing to watch, but if you're a cyclist like myself or a coach, you just love seeing the technique, love seeing the pedaling styles. I'm going to break down some of that stuff on my Instagram page and on YouTube. So make sure you tune into that. I'll try to publish that in the next couple of days. Like I said in the previous podcast, I'm here in Italy leading a camp. Today we rode the Sella Ronda, beautiful ride. It's been really cold here. We've had some rain, but I think the temperatures are supposed to go back up tomorrow. But yeah, today was like a winter day in the Sella Ronda. It was pretty cool. Snow on the mountains. It was beautiful. The whole group did awesome. So I'm jazzed on that. But yeah, I'm going to work on those posts and get some of those technique things up as well. I hope you guys are liking this. I apologize if my visuals is not that great. I got this hotel room, blinds behind me and curtains, like bad lighting, and I'm just talking to myself on here, but I'm doing my best. I hope you guys are enjoying this. And the goal is to try to step it up as we get more experience doing this. And know that we'll continue moving in this direction. So give me your feedback and support if you've got it. I'd love it. Would love some direction on how we can improve and grow on this. I think once I get back to the US, we'll bring Courtney in and she'll help me with make the podcast more interesting. So thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoy it. And let's look forward to the rest of the stages. Tomorrow looks like a sprint, and then it's going to get crazy again. So thank you guys. Have a great evening. And see you tomorrow.